or reading out. And just about 4 hours ago, Anas, Arumi Yao Anas, it is Adi by.
Not just as a journalist, but as a witness to history, a child of Ghana's turbulent past, and a soldier in the fight for truth. Yesterday, in the Essex County Superior Court of New Jersey, an 8-member jury delivered a unanimous verdict holding Kennedy Agyapong, former Ghanaian MP, liable for defamation and awarding damages of $18 million. The ruling is more than a legal victory. It is a profound affirmation that truth matters, that justice is not a privilege of the powerful, and that the arc of history does indeed bend towards righteousness. My story begins long before this moment. I was born at the 37 Military Barracks in Accra, the son of the soldier who served in an era where power belonged to those who wielded the gun. I grew up watching my nation transition from military rule to democracy, witnessing firsthand the struggle of ordinary Ghanaians yearning for justice, transparency, and accountability. When Ghana finally embraced democracy, I knew that safeguarding it required more than just laws. It needed the unyielding courage of those willing to hold power accountable. That is why I chose journalism, not as a career, but as a calling. Over the years, my team and I have exposed corruption at the highest levels, from the corridors of politics to the halls of justice. But in fighting the corrupt, one becomes a target. Mr. Agyapong, in a desperate bid to silence me, labeled me a land grabber, an extortionist, a murderer, a tax evader, and a blackmailer who ought to be hanged. These were not just lies. They were calculated attempts to destroy my credibility and put my life in danger. While Ghana's legal system failed to deliver justice in 2018, the U.S. court upheld truth. This case was not easy. Proving defamation in the United States requires establishing actual malice by a clear and convincing evidence standard, one of the highest legal thresholds in the world. That the jury ruled 8-0 in my favor on every count is a testament to the fact that Mr. Agyapong acted with reckless disregard. Regrettably, Ghana's justice system has not always lived up to the principles of fairness and impartiality. When I sued Mr. Agyapong in 2018, despite his inability to legally substantiate his allegations, the court ruled against me, with Justice Barr scandalously branding me a terrorist instead of adjudicating the facts before him. This miscarriage of justice was later condemned by Supreme Court Justice Kolende, who rightly described it as a violent abuse of judicial authority. My fight has never been for personal gain, but for the soul of Ghana's democracy. This victory in the U.S. sends a powerful message. The media cannot be silenced, truth cannot be buried, and those who wield power must be held accountable.
All right, so we a investigative journalist Anas Arumi Yao Anas and our chain in Kano inti charges are ma okopie mu ewo court no or say falsely claiming that Anas had been convicted of crimes in Ghana, accusing Anas of orchestrating Ahmed Swale's death, asserting that Anas was responsible for the death of multiple Chinese nationals in Ghana, and then labeling Anas as a thief. We need some susu say Anas Honorable Kennedy Agyapong keka ye was a interview numwa enunti ema odeba Ghana court in 2018 and a court no ba asem no eguye and ode call the U.S. court ehode wadi enkunim no, but ye nya other writers so a ebe chese there be papa no kra ye nya nka se ye nyisika no ma no na emom yes on train Kennedy Agyapong and Crawford or more sanso afali appeal ombe appeal on the amount na nyankopon yard in 30 days time the case will be determined enti asem no sayan kasa na isitie Peters aba na Anas ewo courtroom ho we honorable Kennedy Agyapong enra ewo court ho Kennedy Agyapong ne lawyers a court representing no na we say so Kennedy Agyapong ne lawyers na enie one picture ba Anas Arimi ya Anas ono na ahye nose mask no wayi na yi na free nanim because international court allow zebra ne be kat wo se yehu wu nipa na wo se ya defame no enti se nya wade a ene wo be da ka se ya defame nti wo so wo yi wanim ne ehu se ye wo Anas no wa wuni enti wayi nanim wo pese ohu se de Anas a wayi nanim abo nose mask a she binum se prosthetic sa de na ye de kata ye nimu ohu na be ka se nipa ne ade no de but those inimu no so that is Anas na omoma ne yi nanim wo court wo no. So what happened then the see ye ewo enra SS County New Jersey court ho yenko ahmaso na yene lawyer Godlove Agyapong crime or private legal practitioner ne no ebon komo na ya jinsi mimu enchemu lawyer ote yenka Angel FM ne yemo ache na me adoboni bi eni akwan mi di so nso ho ye
kwame ho ye me jina court me koya bilitino
okay
you go do so.
Oh good in service to God and country.
Yes,
good. Where there wadaroma enra anwumre mo on say US there ye leadi wo mo be 5 hours inti anwumre mo won ye sha se tete ye say Canada Japan ya fine no ye si wontua $80 million any ade ebinum so there be ye nyam fine nwie na emom afi kra na ama no kwan ye so ba atimi appeal ni ade o ye lawyer ni unimra asemi ba e wadi akire what happened enra den important e course.
Yo, kwame mi cheti for let me say obika say enya no kra na nipa no mu na se bi onka ni anokra mu ewo edan say be no ka say mi amansa ka judgment ni di ana measure and so there cannot be with all the stamps I see U.S. or SS County Court for maybe the first thing is it is true. So such a judgment has been awarded against Honorable Kennedy Agyapong and then the other gentleman that is Fred or Brown. So yeah.
When your judgment be then the woman then court to the so they take the decision.
I mean what we say that case we in Ankasano Edikain on the 15th of March, ama Ghana Hanum High Court, a ruling, no, ana say 25 million Ghana cedis. Ana yenya court in the say, ana and to me improve the elements of defamation against Honorable Kennedy Agyapong. I mean, the kind of say, you can't say defamation, Grana, as a chairman saying, defamation, and say, either say, my can't be, and I'm a true be, afa, obi one. So I say, na me can ya, na me troy, you know. Ebema nipa na new nyam anabo ni weka say the reputation in society perform to the extent to say eba for mama nipa kra mpeso mo associate your ho with nipa no mo ye nipa kasa no biem subject nipa to hatred and I say ema nipa di omo ya ma obi nya no kra obitini ekran because of asema wo kan ye enti the banisa na say nipa no can lose something because at the end of the day you know I say nipa no timi kire say asema wo kan no cause injury to his reputation and unti emane use APCD hamba choti ase there were two types there was slander yeah ni odo wa no kan your libel hamba choti ase ni outro na ne kura ni nyame anim ne say ni nyina mu no say nipa no timi kire say asema wo kan it has affected me greatly and cause some injury to me.
And I'm not looking bad in the eyes of the right thinking.
In the eyes of society, I'm some affection, be negatively, be according to him or her. What I say, be as some kind of decline, they or couldn't even cry and for to chum or apply the cry and farmer because where the can't say or you come for or a criminal or you say, and to nipano to meet at the court. You see, defamation, a check and balance on the right to freedom of speech. Because your own point is because I can't be an new kinds of the Kanyama, Ebema Obi, then you nyama na reputation of society no I affected. And it is a way I check it access right to freedom of speech. Oh. Na enona honorable Kennedy Agyapong any Freddie Frederick Asamoah friend Daddy Fred no omoyo show na almost streaming live. But I remind you that show the target audience were Ghanaians in the United States of America. In particular, even though it was streamed live now, the target was Ghanaians in the U.S. And to see, and not those statements are being made to, it is made to people within the jurisdiction of the U.S. Number two, so analysis or international recognition, especially in the former president of the U.S., Barack Obama, Mon Crab on Abaso, what is the award on international media outlet like BBC, more year, Cuba, but what you say into our international reputation. And so when you make such statement in another jurisdiction as such a person, obviously that international, picture not one where you make it also in jurisdiction to look into the matter. And in conformity and India, I then assemble Koyakan organ and again, normally you have to also look at whether the court now will have jurisdiction over that person's property in that place, because say Basa judgment, we have to enforce the judgment, go into execution. Over now, go into execution. You look at properties. In those honorable Canada or a Numa or US or Dine or US, and they are Yamano, judgment here, a very easier for Anas to execute because they can easily attach his properties in the US and make sure that the 80 million Ghana cedis is being paid out of it. Other than that, how is he going to get the 80 million? Yes, obviously, either say he's paying, or if he refuses to pay, we will attach his properties in the United States and pay to the Anas. Now, and something or kind, a man Anas is a defamatory. It was coming. Let me put it on record. Mere insult cannot amount to defamation. Send me do attempt keke. Oh, Kwame Ejebu saying, for us and through her, or for my memory home, go with you. Those kind of Lutika Kaka, or when you to so you, those are mere insults. I mean, because when you to so you, and to buy a man, and Opana only said Makokas and Wembuana, how are you going to prove the injury? But then when it goes beyond that, and it is publicized to more than one person, and unfortunately, for Kennedy Agyapong, on that day, they had 29,000 views. People are not streaming and quite 29,000, or it passes the threshold cry of whether or not the statements was made publicly. But a question cry. Now, or say Anas a criminal or a murderer, he's caused the death of many Chinese nationals in Ghana. He even went ahead and said that he's been convicted for a lot of criminal charges. Now, Kwame Sobiki Kasan same way, obviously it will hurt your reputation. Because Anas person calling the or Indonesia, not call Indonesia embassy. Nobody will grant a visa to a murderer. Nobody will grant a visa to a criminal. And mind you, once issues of dishonesty and then criminality is put on you, Kwame, it's difficult for you to deal with other institutions in society. And it's obviously now Anas when he said it has hurt his reputation. But what you say, and he ultimately the call Ghana court it kind. Some money 25 million on from Pata Nekuma. Kwame, near tier of defamation when he said the defenses are very easy. So who will be out here Semasia. The first thing is number one, you have to make sure say who be defend no in an issue of defamation there. And the one defense and say what you said was the truth. And that's a kind and until the moment you are able to prove say these are court proceedings are convicted Anas of criminal Niema, you didn't go to all those things. Kennedy Agyapong would have been free. Or Anas say ultimately prove say Anas a kum asumesi Amet swelly on the kuno. Kwame, mind you, mind you a frontier say. So just a day before the story say I check near Okun Amet swelly somebody connected to an judgment to Yaba. So in effect, what it tells us is that it cannot be Anas who might have killed Ahmed Swali, because Ghana fortunately say nya or ye prime suspect. But what you say, and the court almost they follow some of these things. So Kennedy percent or protecting him, all he needed to do was to prove that everything that he said about Anas was the truth and nothing else. And by now he has a defense. Or he could have just retracted and apologized to him through the same media, any outlet or the defaming. But because he also feels like, well, I'm justified, especially when the Ghanaian court, if you look at what the justice of Ghanaian court in the Kenya or say or no dear, said Honorable Kennedy Agyapong only retreated Enyama Bonia Anas and that Anas has been using the investigative journalism thing to hurt people and all those things, and no Anas meant to improve until or in Ghana Hano said near Honorable Kennedy Agyapong no. Bad. But I've seen commentaries Uncle Fokraka say when a Yama as a Ghana judiciary question marks about him because the same issue, different interpretation by different judges elsewhere. They are thinking that they are defamatory statements. You are thinking they are not defamatory statements. And say Honorable Kennedy Agyapong could not defend himself.
And later we have heard he said it under the political heat.
Well, you see, Kwame, there is no threshold to say statement made amounting to defamation or justification. So no political heat or no political. Does it mean say under political heat? Kwame, untimi enheti obiana. Untimi kase mane affect the reputation na. Menya sure say the laws in Ghana permit to say the only place I'll be imagine when we are in the political season. Mind you, the Constitution only guarantees parliamentary privilege for parliamentarians. They say, parliamentary business. They can say a lot of things. Again, under Article 21, we must see if you be academic freedom. Which are there which not can send in the heat of which are there. But not you say because it's political. No, you can't just say that. So that was not a reasonable defense or grounds for the judges in the US. No, and merely a judge that cannot be a defense for me. And see, Abrafone the Omushwe say yes. Anas has been able to prove say in some way Papanika has hurt his reputation. We have share the judgment with you, and you will see how Abrafone to Omubo Anas international reputation almost I don't quite about 8 or 9 paragraphs about an international reputation because they want to let you know say and no na what that is why we are coming in. To the extent that almost president recognizes Anas, Barack Obama, and he's been given awards and all those things at the international level. Almost not say they more jurisdiction over the matter. And Sakra no them. When I finish, I'll share with you so that you can put it on your Facebook and Ghanaians will have it. And he awarded $18 million against Kennedy Agyapong and then Fred. Now, Netia said Medicanca say either said they will pay, but who say in the judgment, they have said they will go for remitita. Remitita means that they want to go for a reduction of the damages against Kennedy. Mind you, they are not going on appeal. They are going on negotiation to reduce the amount. Meaning, say by this act, why would you say for? Because say maybe for to make appeal. Oh, because the young from 18 million from $10 million and now $5 million. It is an indication, and I implied in your ocean say. It is unfortunate, especially at the time Honorable Kennedy Agyapong has declared his intent to run for president and all those things. This is not really a good thing for him. And I wish Kananka Omubetimi Akasa, especially when one of the defenses in defamation here, so Ubetimi apologized or retracted. I thought that he could have spoken to Anas and then apologize and retract, so that this wouldn't have happened in the first place.
All right, lawyer, papa, me did send some wa summarize the questions I may be sending in and why you need Edia Mai. So, said ye omo Edeba no 18 million no say ultimate ness or can one someone a bit me amano
that is so they can negotiate. I mean, it's up to the court to accept or not. I mean, if the court accepts that, Of course, he has to declare
or say they are 5 million for actual damages, 5 million for compensatory demands, and 8 million for punitive damages, which was against instructions and procedure of the court.
Did you understand? So
breakdown of charge.
Why would you lead your clients through certain things that are more defaulted procedural orders for you to pay such huge sums of money? Why? So sometimes some of these things could have been avoided if the lawyers were minded. But it's okay. They should go and talk to and go for the remediator they are thinking of. And if they are able to do it, I am sure it can be. But for me, I feel it is not a really good thing for the image of Honorable Kennedy.
La, anope yedase. Sa oni abonkomo. Nyankopon hira o to odwuma so. Lawyer Godlove Agyapong crying a private legal practitioner and was also a lecturer at Presbyterian University na ene no abo enkomo no. Eche say dear Drew no.
Kwame. Say me say enra at the outcome ne buy na asema na make can say okay. So a similar case in a Ghana ha omotena so no. Aha no yesi oni nyina so. Wentimi
say judge no really no the buy no say na ano dey say no take asem personal.
Yes. On say Bama amafo kitiki.
Say we taking the where so
you small okafa anas ho no after judgment no. Twe on say we jury and etena ase. Na omo
Justice Eric Bano.
So Kwame SMBP Emma so obi tiwa the first adi obi say no say say emrasem na yekan it e den na the corona na Ghana fana so no Ghana ha no mra no the omudi be determine say indeed there was defamation and a hofo no so omudi ni different from Ghana the omudi be determine say ampa the wo kan no sanity and we difference na we dey ba in Ghana the no difference na we dey ba no which is which so emra corona nje den ensem no had any different way more. Say ama say amanfo be dia bobo be biem ye beka enti no efie mu ye nko say anase ni age owura kan so ene me giri say nipa a omodo no so bia ha wo mo but say de ye twen no nyame yade mo besan akoba enti ye hwe say bedu no $18 million $18 million kwame ude de besi bia na 18 whether ebema kan etua na ontua so obetua anas ema mu $1 million second entua nso a ode o ma mu $1 million na me fam pata mekra at least me so mababa asem ni mu so se eba se owura kan Agyapong kwame me kan asem ade na wo se ode se eba se kan Agyapong $18 million no obetua e de ama anasa
$80 million
na otua e de ma anasa anas emma me mu $1 million o de on che me mu $1 million se ebasa ken entua nso so a owura ken Agyapong baby o biara mo ntonkrama no o de o ma me mu $1 million
edo aso atofam o so o ma wo ayi no abrochire no enu na o mu didi hu lawyers no o mu didi papa ba on say yen kuro mu ase no obi a timi kasem bi a che no afa no ho adi but enkrofo didi hu papa
so so bi ka fa kwa wa wo yesa mpekini app kra no no watimi free ni pa no ka say wasem we asem o ka for e serious we me wo de mema misika bia metimi atwitwa aju de kokota ubenya sika unya sika na ubenya no mejimu bia 10% ebi kwa wo kwa na wadwen unya wa unim se we na me betimi abedi acha ko se hwe ha home wo case wo bedo beko me di akire ama ya gisika na obeje no bia 200,000 ame mejimu 10% so se be ye di ame yenko ampa bon na akombo bam na lawyer no se lawyer for bebre no na ma omunya sika no na wakoje nti
me ye disregard niema bebre
o se
wodu ani tutu fam nkrofo akekensem bi ni ade afa ho a se bre o de ma lawyer nka obetimi anya sika
kwame e na on se we so any expiration David na nipa ne kan ya enne still obetimi say mfie mienu ni kura obetimi de na kokot eti wo de me de man ho si omumu bia sa na asenyaje a omuma me mu $1 million se kan enya ntua mon kan kire no omuma me mu $1 million mbetimi asase atworo mo story o de say journalists appeal to anas to dear ben kan Agyapong so journalists appeal to ken den I rest my case.
Morgan e ho adwuma. Ne U.S.A.
Me da se bebre daddy lumbani.
O tun nya nam so maji percentage.
Oh me your fan ade. Say ba ye me ya appeal no. Ubie microphone mu kama.
Na masan so instruct ayi Morgan say onye ho
adwuma. Memo did good.
Chris, enso adwene na eje ya na de nam Kennedy ho.
Ne ekoyesu.
Ti na no me kofa o me hwe TV bi akon ne mu akon azi no. Hey.